Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm your host Rafae, Iqbal, and in today's show, of course, the most happening news of the day. Donald Trump has won the US elections. We know it will be a historic return to the White House for the Republican former president and President-elect Donald Trump. As he told a jubilant crowd in Florida that America has given him an unprecedented and a very strong mandate, as Donald Trump won 4 of the 7 key swing states. We know the latest projections show Donald Trump leading on 275 plus states, as will be the second term for Donald Trump in the White House. We know he has made a lot of promises, and he has specifically talked about immigration, how there's going to be mass deportation, and he has also talked about economy and bringing down inflation in the country and making America affordable again. And all these promises were part of his great Make America Great Again campaign, the MAGA campaign, as we saw in all the electoral campaign as well. The highlights of Donald Trump's political campaign were economy and immigration, as he vowed to complete the construction of the US-Mexico border wall. And we know with regards to the projections that have been coming in, of course, there have been congratulatory messages pouring in from all the world leaders in that regard. Prime Minister Jawad Tehami also tweeted and facilitated Donald Trump on this victory in these elections. And of course, how Donald Trump is being facilitated by all world leaders all over the world, be it the UK Prime Minister, be it different European leaders, and of course different quarters within the United States as well. We'll be talking about the different aspects regarding Donald Trump's victory and the further implications that his victory will be and the policies that we will be adopting. In the studios, we have been joined by Dr. Imran Sharief, who is a political analyst. Along with that, we have been joined by Noman Sattar, who is an analyst on US politics. And we've also been joined by Jawad Tehami, who is our co-anchor in the United States of America, who is covering the situation, and of course he kept updating us day to day on what the developments are in the United States and of course what the voters are thinking. And we'll move towards Jawad as well and gather more details from him with regards to of course 5th of November. Coming to the studios, Dr. Imran Sharief, Trump's coming back to the electoral campaigns, coming back to the politics. How would you comment on Trump's populist politics as he used it to gather the voters, the majority of them?
This was a pretty interesting election campaign. As you know, Donald Trump 2016 to 2020, and then after that there were a lot of legal issues and other things which were going on, and people were thinking that he may not be elected again, but that was not the case. And he was able to pull through with his obviously reform that you mentioned. One is the immigration, Make America Great Again. That campaign and that word that he uses, Make America Great Again, brings a lot of Americans together. And plus the other thing that happened was the assassination attempt. Once that was pretty close when the bullet hit his ear, and the second one was the person was in the premises of the golf course. So all those things brought a lot of Americans together and they voted for him. And obviously there were things against the other candidate which were not positive, so that led to some of the Democrats vote for him, and also some of the neutrals who were non-decisive vote for Donald Trump. As you can see by looking at the numbers, popular vote goes towards Trump, electoral votes goes towards Trump.
Mr. Noman, how do you comment on, of course, the dynamics of the campaigns between both the two? As of course we saw that there was Trump was with his political campaign, he was very focused on the populist trends, the voter sentiments and the voter trends that we were seeing, and he was capitalizing on that. How do you differentiate between the two campaigns with regards to Donald Trump's victory? And of course, what factors do you think played a vital role in the swing states?
Well, of course, the campaign was very charged from both sides, and of course, on the one hand, you had the incumbent vice president and of course former president, and we all have seen his style in his first term, and especially during the campaign, very aggressive. And of course, he had to, I would say, a lot of things in his closet on the other hand, the vice president, of course, being the incumbent, of course, she focused on what the administration she is in has been doing, like sort of achievements. And I think there was not much to show there. And I think on her part, it was mostly like more personal about Trump than about what basically being an extremist and all that. So basically, I think that really hurt Kamala more and somehow helped Trump. And his rhetoric, of course, being populist and of course talking about immigration and such issues, I think that really, you can say, reached home and of course even Democrats and like all sections. So I think it brought out what's being called a new coalition of voters in support of the Republicans. And I think that's how Kamala suffered this, I would say, defeat.
Right, Mr. Noman, as we were talking to different analysts since the past few days regarding US politics, many of them said there's this shift or change in American politics that wasn't witnessed before. How do you comment on that in particular?
I think this shift comes like after a couple of years.
Right.
And somehow this was due just because Trump is what Trump is and what he has been. And it was like a comeback for him, and of course he could rally all his supporters together with his like slogans, America first and America being America united again and be America strong again. So I think this shift was somewhat due, especially the way Biden had to withdraw and the way there were no other strong candidates. And of course I think Kamala was a good candidate, but then I think it did not work in favor of the Democrats, at least this time.
Dr. Imran Sharief, when we talk about, of course, the election day, it has, of course, come to a conclusion, and we know Donald Trump, he has won the elections, but of course there's a lot of challenges and a lot of promises that were made to the voters with regards to these elections, one of them being the highlight being of Donald Trump's campaign being the economy, as he talked about making America affordable again, and he also talked about expanding energy production and of course oil drilling to lower the energy costs in America. How do you think that would be possible, and do you think it would be a challenge for him to actually make up on that promise?
Obviously, means all of those will be challenges. That's not going to be easy. None of them are going to be easy to achieve. And obviously, means making the economy means what's happening right now. A lot of things are being outsourced from America to China. China is the major supplier. Basically, all the goods go to China, rebuilt, and then sold back to America. So what he's going to try to do is stop that transfer to all these goods to China, have everything made in America, build in America, and create more jobs. So that's how he's going to make the economy flourish. And regarding all the other issues, I think that's going to be not easy. It's going to be a challenge. I think more important thing that Americans are looking at is he also a person who's going to stop all the wars, and especially what's happening in Ukraine, because we are spending a lot of dollars on in that war, Ukraine and Russia. And I think if he's going to stop that war, all that revenue, trillions of dollars being spent, is going to come back, and that's going to be really helpful for the locals. As you know, there are middle class and poor people in US also. The upper class people, they have no issues.
Dr. Imran, as you mentioned that he wants to focus on the manufacturing sector and promoting it in the United States rather than importing goods from China or other parts of the world. With that kind of policies, don't you think it would put America and China into a situation of a trade, face-off?
I think that was happening when he was in 2016. That's going to happen again because Donald Trump wants America on top. He cannot let China take that position, and he's going to do anything to bring America back, because right now China is going pretty fast, and whether he has to put tariffs on, whatever he has to do, or bring all the jobs back in US, Trump is going to do that. And if he says something, most likely he will deliver it.
He will deliver it. Mr. Noman, Donald Trump, the president-elect, he also talked about taxes and, of course, the rate cuts in taxes and, of course, an increase in the tariffs on imports. What do you think his policies are going to be with regards to, of course, as Dr. Imran also mentioned, they want to promote the manufacturing industry in America, but we know how the global trade scenario is at the moment. How do you think there would be a need to create a vacuum or a space to actually establish and revitalize that manufacturing industry?
I think it's going to be a big challenge considering the competition worldwide, like especially vis-a-vis China. But I think the kind of person that he is and what we have seen like in his first term, I think he would push for that because he doesn't really bother what others would say or think. He would just go ahead with what he thinks, and I think he would do, like, especially whether it's taxation or tariffs, like we've seen what happened last time vis-a-vis China. So I think he's going to push for that, like in his own way.
So clear-headed policies is what. Right, we've also been joined by Jawad Tehami, our anchor person in the United States of America, who went to New York to cover the US elections. And of course, today, the day Donald Trump has won the elections, is now the president-elect. Jawad, what's the details of what's going on in America? What are the people feeling? And what's the sentiment in the air overall?
Okay, so Rafae, first of all, thank you very much for having me all the way from I'm nearby Washington, D.C. on the election day, 5th of November, 2024. I happen to be there in the heart of Washington, D.C., right outside the Capitol Hill building, as well as outside the White House in Washington, D.C. And I could see there was enthusiasm as far as voters going to the different polling stations is concerned. We saw long lines outside the polling stations at the start of the day. And before this final day of the election on 5th of November, we saw around 80 million people had cast their ballot through early ballot system. So far, we have seen that particular message of making America great again has resonated very well with the public over here in the United States of America. And we saw yesterday that it was a thumping victory, if I would say that would be wrong to say that it was a thumping victory on the part of former President Donald Trump, who is going to be the 47th President of the United States of America. As far as the polls and the surveys before the elections are concerned, there was a perception, there was a neck and neck contest between former President Donald Trump and his Democrat rival Kamala Harris, but the results are showing a very different picture. So that shows that make America great again. That very message has resonated largely with the general public. At the moment, the various media outlets here in the United States of America are being a little cautious in announcing the results. We know there has been a clear lead as far as those 7 swing states or the battleground states are concerned of former President Donald Trump. Currently, as if I quote the CBS News, 276 electoral college votes have been grabbed so far as the results keep pouring in by former President Donald Trump as compared to 222 of Kamala Harris so far. It also seems that as the results pour in, more and more favorable results are going to come towards former President Donald Trump. As far as those swing states are concerned, we have seen a clear lead on the part of former President Donald Trump, especially the leading swing state, Pennsylvania, and Analyst before the elections.
Pennsylvania, Jawad, I'll have to, right, Jawad, Pennsylvania, I'll have to ask you to stop at that because we'll have to take a short break. We'll continue from where the conversation left off, but right after this really short break. Stay tuned. Well, coming back to our conversation, as we were discussing the challenges that the President-elect Donald Trump will face, coming back to the studios. Dr. Imran Sharief, immigration, one of the highlights that President-elect Trump did talk about a lot in his electoral campaign. Of course, the wall between US and Mexico and the mass deportation factor as well. What's your analysis of those promises?
I think he's going to deliver. Means it's very clear from get-go. He wants to build the wall. He wants to complete the wall. And regarding the immigration, during his campaign, he was very clear that all the problems which are happening in U.S. means robberies, criminals, and other people who disrupt the civilians' life. They are non-immigrants. They are just getting into the country, crossing the border. So he's going to create a process where there's going to be mass deportation. And I think as an American citizen, as long as you go through the process, naturalization, there's a whole process. And if you go through that process, you will live a very comfortable and very good life in America. But if you crossing the border and you coming illegally, I think that's not fair for the locals, because you're taking away the jobs. That's another issue, right? And then if these illegal people don't have the job, they're going to do robberies, they're going to create gangs, they're going to create nuisance in the community. Obviously, the president priority is not to have that happen, and I think he's going to put his foot down and he's going to take care of this.
Right. Mr. Noman, how would you comment on immigration policies, of course, mass deportations in particular?
I think as far as we are concerned, like in Pakistan, we are more concerned about what he has said earlier about the Muslims, and of course, like measures for the Muslim countries, and we have to wait what like he has to come up with a new policy, or maybe how he would like to continue with that. And I think even the whole Muslim world will be looking at him, how he would address this issue, because of course after this conflict in Palestine, this issue has now really come up and it is going to be highlighted. And of course I think he's very clear about what he thinks about illegal immigrants, and many of them are criminals, and of course law enforcement agencies have to be really tightened up, and I'm sure he's going to take strong measures to like hunt down criminals, and of course definitely deport them, of course illegal immigrants as well. So it's going to be a tough crackdown, tough policy and a crackdown, but I'm sure he's going to face challenges even on this as well.
Coming towards that, Dr. Imran, how do you think, as the issue of and the concerns of the Muslim Americans came up, and of course we know foreign policy, it had some weight in these elections, which is very unorthodox for American politics. How do you think President-elect Trump is going to be dealing with this situation? You know, America saw its own version of the Arab Spring recently. How do you think he's going to have challenges in trying to create and diffusing down those tensions and create an environment of inclusivity and unity?
I think that's a very good question, and I'm just going to add to my colleague's comment. First of all, when the campaign was happening between Trump and Kamala, I'm from Los Angeles and I represent Pakistani American community. So we represent the overseas diaspora in the East and West. So we met with Kamala's campaign, we met with Trump's campaign, multiple meetings, and we presented all those issues, which include war in the Middle East, Muslim issue, bans, and all the other issues. Trump campaign was willing to listen, they were willing to work with us, they were willing to do things, while the Kamala's campaign was not much interested in moving forward. So Trump assured us that he's going to stop all the wars. And if you know Detroit, Michigan is a battleground state, and the results are not confirmed yet. It's still pretty close. Yeah. So Michigan Muslims have endorsed Trump. Pakistani American, we endorsed Trump, and we knew even beforehand that most likely he's going to win. And I mean, that was the right decision in retrospective. So he agreed upon all those issues that you brought it up, and those are really important points, and we just have to now follow up and make sure that the Secretary of the State and other important people in his cabinet are going to deliver his promises which were made to us.
Right, that's a very important point that you talk about. Mr. Noman Sattar, talking about climate change, one of the global phenomena, it's affecting the world, it's affecting Pakistan the most, and even though Pakistan is the most least contributor to carbon emissions. Former President Donald Trump, when he was back in 2016 and now he's the president-elect, of course he rolled back on those environmental protectionist laws and policies. He's even against the use of electric vehicles, as he talked about, and criticized President Biden's policies regarding that. How do you think the phenomenon of climate change it is going to be responded by the new president-elect Donald Trump?
I don't expect any big change, and of course he has to go like what the problem is the problem being faced by the Americans today, and of course like there is a you can say framework and a regime, national regime, and what's expected of the US, and the way things are going on, the things have gone like in the last 8 years since he left office at 4 years. I don't think there has been much change in his position, and I think the way he wants to make America great again, the way he would like to see these things settle, I think in his own way, in how he sees fit. And of course, it also depends the people he pick as his secretaries or cabinet members, how they see it. But I still think he is going to manage it. Not the American way, but Trump's way, his own way, especially say, like an issue like climate change, because he takes a very strong position on that.
Right. Dr. Imran, when we talk about the international situation, of course, messages of congratulations have been pouring in from all over the world. Prime Minister Jawad Sharif has also felicitated Donald Trump on his X handle. How do you see the global situation changing with President-elect Trump coming in? Of course, he's going to be having his own policies that are going to be different from what the Democrats have.
I think Democrats have a complete different thought process. Republicans are very different. And plus, Republicans are different. On top of that, Trump is a completely different person. So he has his own thought process. So first of all, he has clearly stated in his victory speech that he's going to stop all the wars. I think that's a positive thing. It means not for Americans, I think for the world. I mean, we should solve all our issues by diplomacy, not by wars. So I think that's a positive thing. And other things which are happening in the world, wherever there is going to be a need, I think he's going to be involved. Whether Pakistan, let's name Pakistan, and things which will be needed in Pakistan, as we talked about climate issues. I know he's not a strong believer in climate issue, but it's still something that can be discussed. He will sit down with us on the table, and we will bring
There's
these
room
issues.
for negotiation with him. Right. Moving towards Jawad Tehami, our anchor person in United States of America. Jawad, how's the atmosphere? We know President-elect Donald Trump, his policies differ very much from what the Democrats have had since the past term. What changes is the American society expecting that will affect their lives, their daily lives most significantly?
Okay, Rafae, firstly, this particular comeback is being termed as one of the most incredible and the biggest comebacks for a former president back to the White House, reclaiming the White House. As far as the people's sentiment over here is concerned, as the results were pouring in last night on 5th of November, I was standing right outside the White House, and the entire global media, the representatives of the global media were there. We saw specifically two communities. Of course, there was a large gathering of the Trump supporters over there outside the White House, and they were chanting slogans in the favor of former President Donald Trump. Two communities over there, the Sikhs as well as Muslims had gathered over there, and we saw there were drums being beaten and all were dancing to the tune of drum at that particular moment. They were very, very happy as to understand there are going to be changes in the policy. As far as one of the participants just mentioned, as far as Michigan State is concerned, it has the largest Arab and Muslim population over there. And the particular message by former President Donald Trump regarding the situation in Gaza has resonated well with that particular segment of that particular state. And we have seen the results are not clear as far as Michigan State is concerned, but of course we see that former President Donald Trump is leading over there. We have also seen the congratulations on the part of various world leaders being poured in towards former President Donald Trump. Keeping those congratulations aside for a second, when we talk about those messages which have been relayed by Kremlin as well as Foreign Ministry spokeswoman of China, let me quote a Kremlin statement: "We will draw the conclusions based on concrete steps and concrete words. The U.S. is capable of helping bring about the end of the conflict in Ukraine, but is also the country that is inflaming the conflict." Then Dmitry Peskov goes on to say that there were certain harsh statements which were made by former President Donald Trump, but as he goes into the Oval Office, that particular tone is likely to be changed, and they are expecting a change. So let's see. We have seen that very pattern through the statements of former President Donald Trump regarding as to his objections regarding the budget of NATO. And let's see, the time will tell as he takes the presidency, how is he going to...
Definitely, time will tell. Dr. Imran Sharief, as we're running short on time as well, one last question. Do you think, as before the electoral campaigns started off, Trump hinted towards constitutional reforms? Do you think that will also, that's something also that will go in the process?
That's a pretty interesting point. Means we don't know, but everything is possible when the Trump is there in White House. Means he's going to do something which is no one has done. So very possible.
Right, and Mr. Noman, an unprecedented win. Do you think it's going to have unprecedented policy changes, unprecedented a new innovation into the White House?
I would think so, because it said that the first time he was not really prepared for the Oval Office. But this time, I think he has worked really hard, and I'm sure his plan and his team is like very much there. I think there's going to be big changes, but most probably, constitutional amendment you asked, I think that's not going to be easy.
Right, it definitely is not going to be easy. You need good maturity for that, but it is something that the president-elect hinted towards, and it's going to be interesting what he does with this intention of his and how it's going to unfold and the developments that come with it. Of course, the coming days are going to be very interesting with regards to American politics, and of course the new policies that we are going to be seeing from the new president-elect, Dr. Imran Sharief, political analyst, Mr. Noman Sattar, US politics analyst, and Jawad Tehami, our anchor person in US. Thank you all for your time and being part of this conversation. As very congratulations to the president-elect Donald Trump, and we hope all of his policies, all of his projects, and everything that he has in mind for America truly does make America great again. That's all that we have for today. See you same time tomorrow. Till then, stay tuned.